Hey, BookTube Science Fiction Reads here with another edition of Recent Reads and Book Haul. Still sticking to my self-imposed book buying ban, but I did have a few things come in the mail that hadn't arrived by the time I made the last video, and I found a couple books in one of those free libraries, little free libraries. Actually, probably the first time I've actually ever found science fiction in them. So I left off last time. I was mostly finished The Best of Stanley G. Weinbaum. Absolutely love this author. But good luck ever finding him in the wild. Someday I will buy some more of his stuff online because the chances of finding some of his books are pretty slim. But it's been over a month now since I read this, but the ones I really liked were all kind of interconnected in this. Well, they're not interconnected, but they take place all in the solar system. So they're kind of in a shared history. The Martian Odyssey and Valley of Dreams I spoke about in a couple previous videos that I really liked, but then the other two I really enjoyed involved the same character named Hammond, and he has a couple adventures on Venus. The first one's Parasite Planet, and the second is called The Lotus Eaters. And there's actually a third involving him and the female character in those stories who he eventually marries, I think at the end of the first one. But it's not collected in this, so I'm going to try and find that online and just read it there or something. But those were really good. They've got elements of hard SF, but they were written in the 30s, so it's pretty early, but I don't know, they kind of felt like early Larry Niven, like not early Larry Niven, but if Larry Niven was writing in the 30s, they kind of felt like that. You have this character using science to troubleshoot and solve, well, in this case, just survive, really. The Lotus Eaters was a cool one, where they find kind of a half animal, half plant creatures that are super intelligent, but don't really do anything with that intelligence, which was really neat. And then the final story was Proteus Island, which first appeared in Astounding Stories in 1936. That was a good one too, just a one-off. It's not connected to anything. Involving, I can't even remember now if he was a trader, some sort of international trader. He's a couple locals are taking him to this island, and they're very superstitious, these natives of this island, and he couldn't care less. Eventually they get scared and leave in the canoe, and he's stuck there for a few days. And he eventually realizes there's no two living things on the island alike. Every single tree is its own separate species. Every animal is its own separate species. There's no two alike, and also they don't appear anywhere else on Earth. So he's trying to solve that mystery. They were really good, and there was one other in here. I don't know if I can remember. Damn it, I can't remember which one it was. You know what? Because I'm thinking of a C.L. Moore short story. Never mind. After that, Ira at SF Words of Wonder was going to check out Robert Sawyer's Hominids this month for part of his New Authors November. And I wanted to read this for a while anyways, and I recently acquired the rest of the trilogy. So I read this and the next two, and at this point they're all blurred together, so I'm just kind of have a short word about them in general. Hominids itself was really good. I really enjoyed it. It involves scientists from our reality making contact with scientists from an alternate Earth where for whatever reason Neanderthals became the dominant hominid on Earth, and humans were the ones that died out 20 to 40,000 years ago. And it was really cool. The prose is, some people had told me, and I'd already read this, that his prose is pretty basic. It's kind of like Michael Crichtonish. Like it reads like a thriller kind of, or at least it doesn't read like a thriller, but it's the prose is that way. It's simple prose. but it was also really bizarre because it takes place in Ontario, Canada, which is where I live, and so all the places they visit, the businesses and things that are mentioned are places I've been to or have heard of. So that was kind of bizarre. At one point, they mention a city that's 1 hour away from me, which is just bizarre. I've never come across that before. But he is a Canadian author based in Toronto, I believe. So that's why. It was good, and my favorite part of it, and I'm talking about the series in general, was just the difference in the two cultures. It's basically like a thought experiment of another way humanity could go about things and be a lot more kinder to each other and the planet, especially the planet. So it's basically, I think I said in a community post, it's like holding a mirror up to society. It was pretty neat. Lots of good ideas. And it ends satisfyingly. Like, you don't have to read the other two, which is good because although I enjoyed them, I would not read them again. They focus more so on the main character, who's Ponter, the Neanderthal scientist who accidentally ends up in our world. They focus on him and a Canadian human scientist and the relationship those two have, more so than the kind of background plot, which really is the background. It's there's very little actual plot. It's more so their relationship. So it was still good and great ideas, and I loved the alternate culture. But you could read the first one and stop there and enjoy it. Then I read George Zabrowski's The Star Web. This is an author I have not read in a long time. I've mentioned before, one of the first things he wrote was a trilogy, but I have a bind-up of it in just one book, and it's only a couple hundred pages. But back in the 70s, the books were this thin. This was like 160 pages. The Omega Point was the trilogy he wrote that I really enjoyed. And I read something else by him, like The Ninth Planet or something that I hated. And then I read this, and it was not great. The Star Web, it's about a group of UN, well, I guess they work for the UN, just a group of different specialists who are sent to Antarctica to track down a radio signal coming from underground. They dig it up. It's a buried alien tech, and it whisks them away through the galaxy, kind of thing. It had lots of good ideas, but cardboard characters. The main character was terrible. He was supposed to be a leader of men, and he constantly is trying to take charge of this group, but also has no bravery. He doubts everything. It was weird. The characters contradict themselves. It was not well written. It just had some neat ideas, but I gave it a 2 out of 5 on Goodreads. I like these laser books, but this is the only one I have, I believe. And anytime I look them up, read up the synopsis and stuff, they just never sound good. And that was the case here. Then I had a pleasant surprise. After I finished that, I was standing in front of my bookshelves, staring at them. That's how I pick what I'm going to read next, because I'm pretty much a mood reader, or just whatever catches my eye. I've never been able to stick to a TBR. But while I'm standing there staring at my bookshelves, I got a YouTube comment on one of my videos from Bart at Bart's Bookspace. Is that what his channel's called? I can't remember at the moment. I'll put it here somewhere. He commented on something, and then we got chatting, and he mentioned he was reading Tzero. So I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to read. As I've mentioned previously, I keep struggling with Poul Anderson. I can't find something of his I like, even though he just seems like he's my kind of author. And this has been suggested among a couple other things of his work that, like, this is what you should read if you want to check out Poul Anderson. So I read Tzero, which is probably, would it be his probably his best known science fiction. And it was really good. Published in 1970. I have the 1975 copy from Berkeley. I have a few of his books in this library, and I love them. They look great on the shelf together. This was a really good hard SF, and it is truly hard SF. For something written that early, it's pretty good as far as hard SF goes. It does have your, you know, pretty basic characters. They're very, well, they're more developed than I expected, but they're not all that great. There's 50 people on a ship that's traveling to a nearby star. It's 30-ish light years away. And something goes wrong and they can't stop accelerating. Which I've always known that was the plot. For years I've known that was the plot, but I knew nothing else. I'm so glad I never looked this up on Wikipedia, which I often do with books, and just read the entire plot. And then years later I get to the book and I'm mildly annoyed that I can remember key points. But I couldn't, if I did look it up, I couldn't remember anything. It did not end how I expected until about the last third. I had a feeling it might end a certain way, and that ended up being exactly how it ended. But I still really was impressed. The science is crazy. I mean, it's mostly accurate, I assume, and realistic right up until the end, and then it's just, you know, hand-waving craziness. But as far as early hard SF goes, this was really good, like literally impressive. It was, yeah, nominated for the Hugo. I should look up what it lost to, because now I'm curious. But I really, really enjoyed this. There was just lots of characters having, if they weren't discussing it, they were having deep thoughts to themselves about just what it means to be in their predicament. This is also really maybe the best book I've read that involves time dilation. I've loved the idea of time dilation ever since I read The Forever War by Joe Haldeman, which was one of the first SF books I read. And of course it deals with, you know, people coming back after traveling at practically light speed. And, you know, so much time has passed that everything's different and you're out of time. So I've always loved that concept, and this just takes that idea and runs with it. But I really loved the passages of just characters ruminating on their situation. It kind of reminded me of when Stephen Baxter goes off on just explaining physics, and he does it almost poetically. Although other people might read it and be like, this is like a textbook and it's boring as hell, and I wouldn't blame them for feeling that way. But I was impressed with this and happy about it, even though I suspect this could remain my favorite Poul Anderson science fiction. I gave it a 4 out of 5. It wasn't perfect, but it was damn good. I really enjoyed it. And there's certain scenes I'll remember for a long time, and I'll probably reread this in the years to come. And the last thing I read, which I read all of this today. This is totally different. I'm not going to spend much time talking about it, but I found issues 1, 5, and 6 of Paper Girls, the graphic novel by Brian K. Vaughan and Cliff Chang. Brian K. Vaughan did Saga, which I have all of those, but I haven't read. And I think he did something else I have that I read the first issue of years ago and haven't got back to. But it's basically like, it feels like a all-female Stranger Things. It was pretty neat. It involves a lot of time travel, time paradoxes, and just 4 young girls trying to save the universe. They were better than I expected. I just found these in a thrift store like just over a year ago. The 3 I don't have, I managed to find online, and I read them that way. And they were pretty neat. And that is what I read since the last video. I have no idea what I'll read next. I'll probably be standing at my bookshelf, staring and hoping somebody comments on YouTube and gives me an idea. But the last video I said I was waiting for the other Golden Age masterworks of C.L. Moore, and those are here. So we have Doomsday Morning, which is a novel. I think it's post-apocalypse of some sort. I can't remember now. It's from 1957. Judgment Night, which I believe is short stories, released in 52. It's 5 novellas. And it looks like all of them appeared in Astounding Science Fiction magazine at one time or another. Let me just see. Is it 5? See, you can't even look up. For some reason, these don't have a table of contents. None of these Golden Age Masterworks have a table of contents, which is really annoying. And then one I'm quite excited about, Northwest of Earth, collects all the Northwest Smith stories, of which I've read 3 now, although I consider the 3rd that I read more so a Jory story where her and Northwest meet up. But anyway, I got plenty of C.L. Moore. It wouldn't surprise me if that's what I read next is one of those, but I'll try to hold off. And then just a couple random finds from a little free library when I was getting rid of some books I don't need. Paul Anderson, The Enemy Stars. Like, nice unbroken spine. Actually, this is Berkeley as well, but it's not that matching livery that they have. I don't remember now what this is about. I read the back. It's just a super tiny, thin book. This was, I think, from 58, but this copy is from 65. And a real random find. I just had, my last video I found The Best of John W. Campbell, which is the only John W. Campbell book I've even seen in the wild. And then, a week or 2 later, I come across this, The Black Star Passes, which I believe is a collection of 3 short stories or novellas. Piracy Preferred, Solarite, and The Black Star Passes. And it's been like a week since I looked it up, but I think, I didn't realize it at the time when I grabbed the book, but I think it's 3 different stories. And kind of like Da books from the 70s. There's a little picture at the beginning. Yeah, I think it's 3 different stories. So that's a neat, random find. I am curious to read his stuff, although I'm not in any great hurry. Other than Who Goes There, the short story, which I haven't read yet, but I do want to read that. So, yeah, that's what I've read so far. I really went on a reading binge after complaining in my last video that I haven't had time lately. But I found some time and I took advantage of it. So I'm hoping I can keep that up for as long as possible, because I go through spurts where I'll read a ton and then either don't have time or just lose all interest for a while, which happens. But anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.